The story of me. In the beginning, there was a field of infinite possibility and pure potential called the universal mind. Then somewhere in the midst of the universal mind, the thought of you appeared. That thought of you became conscious of itself and called itself me. For many years, me lived and played happily in the midst of the garden of everything. But over time, it began to separate and individuate. It went to school and grew up to be an independent, free-thinking, empowered human being, making its way in the world, navigating by the rule book it had accumulated along the way, and using discipline and willpower as its primary engine. Me grew very strong and enjoyed flexing its muscles and developing its personal power. It forgot all about the universal mind that had once been its constant companion. Eventually, me began to struggle, as all of us do. It was lonely and felt insecure, and did everything in its power to make sure that no one ever saw through its facade. It wasn't having a bad life, at least not some of the time. But something was missing. Then one day, me heard about something called the infinite. It sounded very important and very grand, and the descriptions of the great peace that could be felt when one touched the infinite sounded like the most beautiful thing me had ever heard. But me was too smart to fall for that one again. After all, the writers of the rule book inside me's head had already told it all about a supernatural being who lived in the sky. Since many of the things me had been told after being born had turned out to be untrue, me turned its back on its image of the infinite and carried on its own, struggling more and more, but proud of its autonomy and ability to think for itself. Until one day, me met the infinite. It looked nothing like the image me had made up in its head, yet it seemed strangely familiar. Much to me's surprise, the more time it spent with the infinite, the better life got. In fact, hanging out in the infinite felt like going home to a place me didn't even remember. Soon me and the infinite were spending nearly all of their time together. Eventually, me began to think of itself less and less as me, and more as a drop in the infinite ocean. Then one day, me disappeared. Some said that me had died, others that me had become enlightened. But the infinite potential of the universal mind remained, and continues on to this day.